I think you hear it all the time when a fighter loses. The the often people go to very quickly is, oh well, he was out of his prime. Oh, he's over the hill now. When he would have fought him 2 years ago, he would have been in his prime. And it's like some calculation that people come up with their head that they think that they found the perfect time when a fighter's usually in his prime, and they usually assume it's from 28 to 32. And I think that that could be accurate for a lot of cases, but that's not accurate for everyone. And there's a lot of factors that go into a fighter for their prime, but also when they are at their best in boxing or in their fighting career. And it's not just physical ability, because technically I bet you a bunch of guys are way more physical ability at 24 than they are at 28, 29, and 30. I bet you a lot of guys are being able to run faster, jump higher, punch faster, move faster, better reflexes at 24 than they are when they're 32. But usually you see a guy at 24 and he's not ready for the big leagues, right? Why is that? That's because his knowledge of the sport, of what he's doing, of his craft and his skill, has not caught up to his physical abilities yet. And you have to calculate all those things to figure out when the fighter is at his best in his career. It's not just his physical ability, it's his mental capacity of the game. It's his knowledge and how to apply it. And that's what you have here. You have your physical ability doing this and your knowledge and skill going here. And there's a point where they meet. That's when you're at your best. And I think there's some guys that are at their best, maybe past their physical prime. But I also think that you don't know exactly when the physical prime is. A lot of guys, like I say Floyd Mayweather, I think he had a very long physical prime. And the reason for that is because he found a weight class that he didn't have to cut a lot of weight to get to, didn't have to hurt his body in training camp to get to, that he could have a lot of success in. He was good enough to do that. You notice that the greats can prolong their career because they can get to a weight class. They're so skilled that they can fight guys that are cutting from high amount of weight. And they're going to a weight class like Floyd Mayweather at 147, where he doesn't have to cut that much. He even fought at 154, and he would come in light there, where he doesn't have to cut that much, and he's fighting guys that are cutting 20 pounds, and that prolongs his career, prolongs his ability, because he's not doing damage to his body. And that's because he got to a point where defensively, the skill he had and the knowledge he had defensively, he was not going to get touched anymore. He was in that ability where he was just a master at his craft. Still had speed, still had the pop, still had the reflexes. Maybe not what he once had right in his 20s, but with the knowledge that he had now to apply it, he was never better. And I think that happens for a lot of fighters. But to say that, oh, just because I assume that he's at his best at 28 because that's where he would be at his physical prime, that's an incorrect and an error way of thinking. You also have to calculate damage taken over the rounds. Like the 28-year-old isn't the same across the board. 28-year-old has been in the several wars to get to that point. It's not going to be a guy that's been defensive at 28 to that point and didn't take a lot of damage and has gotten guys out of there, or has had fights where he avoided taking in a lot of damage. There's a lot of factors here that will lead to this. But just to try to throw a blanket statement over it is a really flawed way of thinking about it, and we have to really get away from that. Okay, I think a lot of guys are very good in their late 30s, and examples like Sergio Martinez, who definitely was better in his late 30s than he was at any point in his career. Bernard Hopkins, who was excellent in his late 30s. Floyd Mayweather, very good in his mid to late 30s. These guys are prime examples of guys that their knowledge and their evolution in the game still happening in their 30s was still making them great fighters. And you can't just say, oh no, at this point they're just a lesser form of what they are. It just doesn't work that way. Physical prime doesn't mean when you are your best at a certain sport, especially fighting.